Hi guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to the desktop for another retro RPG. Now, a few weeks ago, I presented this, the Lone Wolf role-playing game by Mongoose Publishing. There they are, Mongoose Publishing, released on the OGL. And at the time in that video, I mentioned that there was a Lone Wolf multiplayer game, which I thought had come out released by Cubicle 7. Well, it turns out I was wrong. I hadn't done enough reading up, because here is the Lone Wolf Multiplayer Gamebook by Matthew Sprang and Joe Dever, which is also by Mongoose Publishing. The Cubicle 7 role-playing game is something completely different. Now, as I covered in the other video, this is a Lone Wolf product. It's based on the gamebooks which came out, the sort of choose-your-own-adventure style gamebooks. But this version is a role-playing game, but based on the rules of the gamebooks, which are very, very simplified rules. So you get a few skills and talents, you've got health, and you've got sort of damage, and that's about it. There's not a lot of stats here. You're not going to be doing a huge amount of different things. There's no sort of charisma and all that to make your rolls on. It's a very simplified version. And this is 120... Is it less than that? 106, 107 pages of text, and then character sheets and combat tables at the back. So it's a very brief book. Came out for about $20 in the United States. I think it was about £10 in the UK, which is a lot for a very thin book, but not a lot for a role-playing game. And I'd like to take a wee skip through it today. So let's start on the back. Launched in the 1980s, the Lone Wolf series of gamebooks became firm favourites amongst a growing fan base. Alone amongst the gamebooks of their day, Lone Wolf was the only one to feature a cohesive and exciting world, an extended campaign in which your character could grow and expand as he travelled through all 28 books of the original series. This was the first true mega campaign. Prepare to return to the world of Magnamund, this time with your friends. The Lone Wolf Multiplayer Gamebook is a full role-playing game based on the simple rule systems of the solo books. It's so easy anyone can play. First book in this range brings you the core rules, introduces the Kai Lord character class, and presents 3 introductory scenarios to get you started. Now, I argue with some of this. The cohesive campaign, it was obvious that the first, I think it was 7 books of the Lone Wolf ones were somewhat cohesive, although realistically only the first 2 books made up one story. Everything else was just adventures of the same character. And then it was really obvious as you played that things were just tacked on, because when you got to be a Kai Lord and you'd gained all the abilities, the next book introduced there were Magna Kai abilities that you'd learnt. So you had to learn all of those through the next 7 books. And then there were Kai Grand Master abilities you had to learn. And I don't know what came beyond those. I imagine after 7 books there were yet another 7 skills you had to learn. And basically they were the same things over again. You learnt sort of Psy Blast as a Kai Lord. But when you became Magna Kai, it became Psy Burst or something like that, which was the same thing, but just more powerful. The sequel books, so the second set of 7 books, did make a token effort to mention you using the basic abilities because you had them all. So you had your tracking abilities and all that. But it wasn't really a cohesive campaign. It was tacked together. It was one author, so the storylines kept going. You'd see NPCs returning from time to time. But they were just independent stories. And I would argue that things like the Way of the Tiger books, which had the same character running through, were a cohesive campaign as well. But I was a fan of Lone Wolf. I read the game books. I absolutely adored them. I've still got most of them to this day. But let's start flicking through the book. And inside, we've got the introduction. Welcome to Lone Wolf, a multiplayer fantasy game book. How to play a game in progress. How do you win? It mentions that you win the other game books, but you don't necessarily in a role-playing game. There's chance and random encounters, or random numbers. Blind luck. You can use dice, but it's got the random number table at the back. So you would just dunk. I've selected, well, exactly on the cross, so as 7, 3, or 0, or 9. We've got creating a character, and in this base book, you can only be a Kai Lord, like the original Lone Wolf books. It goes through their abilities, so they've got camouflage, hunting, sixth sense, tracking, healing, weapon skill, mind shield, mind blast, animal kinship, mind over matter. You've got your starting equipment, which it details what you can have. Backpack items, gold crowns, naming your Kai Lord, chance to randomly select one. So let's go 5 and 2. So we have Sword Hawk. There, my new Kai Lord, Sword Hawk. Defeating enemies, it describes the combat system. So, Kai Lord combat skill 15 is ambushed by a winged devil, combat skill 20. You have Kai discipline of mind blast. You add +2 bonus to your combat skill, giving you a combat skill of 17. So the combat ratio of -3. And then you select a number from 1 or 10, and you roll it on the -3 chart. So let's say we get a 4. So the enemy gets -4, and the character gets -4. So they both take damage in that combat round. And that's how it works. So if the combat ratio is definitely in your favour, you stand a chance of killing the enemy outright while taking no damage. And at the other end, you take a chance of being killed outright while the enemy takes no damage. Carrying on through, we've got battles, we've got ganging up on enemies, slings and arrows, healing, the Kai training and the ranks, so as you go from novice to initiate, intuit, it says, it doesn't say initiate, Doan, acolyte, initiate, so intuit, I have no idea what that is, aspirant, guardian, warman or journeyman, savant and master. Getting better, adventuring, so it goes through certain things, breaking things, lighting your way, trading, tactics and strategies, endurance and weapon skill, how these things work, being the games master, your own adventures, how to write them, monsters and adversaries. So we've got the monsters, and basically they have 2 stats. They have their combat skill, and they have their endurance. So basically the skill that you are going to use to roll on the combat table and the amount of hit points they have. Monsters are that simple. Mountain Gayak, Gorgaz, Guard Soldier, Helgast, Vordak, Warhound, Zlan Beast. Got the history of Magnamund, the Last Lands, so it details Sommerland, and what's the other one? Oh, Journal. There they are. Sommerland and Journal. Go through those. There's not a lot of artwork in here, but there's some decent stuff. Again, I'm a bit disappointed they didn't use more out of the game books. It would have been nice. And here we've got an adventure. So we're straight into an adventure. And I believe it says there are 2 more. So part 3, A Triumphant Return. Part 5, Not So Subtle. We've got different tests. Cleth's Letter. So is that a second adventure? Because it says part 6. Part 7, Kidnapped. Running the Rooftops. Street Questions. So I'm guessing they're 3 adventures which flow together, because there doesn't seem to be any more room in this. And we're on to the action chart, so basically your character sheet. So it's a very simplistic role-playing game. We're through. Now, one of the things I'm slightly disappointed with this is the combat results table, which, if I can try and get my hand mostly out of the way, you can see they've copied directly from the game books, because it's not hero and enemy, it's Lone Wolf. Because these are the combat results from when you were playing Lone Wolf in the original series of books. They've not bothered to change that. They could have changed it to attacker and defender or anything like that, but no, they've decided to Leave it as Lone Wolf. So everybody's Lone Wolf in the game. Could have made it a K for Kai. No, that would be mixed up with the automatically killed. But hero or attacker and opponent. Either one of would have worked instead of leaving it as Lone Wolf. It's a nice idea, taking the rules which worked so well in the original game books and fleshing them out a bit. It's a fun wee thing. I can't see you playing a very long campaign of it. Essentially, you've just got the number of Kai abilities of levels, because you gain one each level. But I could see you playing a few sessions of it and having a load of fun. Anyway, that's all I've got to say on the matter. Thank you very, very much for watching, as usual. Please like and subscribe if you like what I'm doing. But most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye.